Well, good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, discipleship groups. It's Richard here, just to talk a little bit about the message I gave on Sunday morning to stimulate some discussion for you if you find that helpful in your discipleship groups this week. The message on Sunday covered a number of themes, all around the idea that we have a part to play in sticking on track for God in the coming week. And the main message really was that if we mess up God's plan A for us, God is flexible enough to create a new plan A for us. And the main thing we need to do actually is to focus on being humble and staying humble before God, knowing that He is God and making Him Lord in our decisions and priorities. And one of the examples I used was the story of King Manasseh, one of the Judean kings, whose story is told twice in the Bible, in 2 Kings 21 and in 2 Chronicles 33. There's a number of questions you might want to explore in terms of the things that I covered on Sunday. One was the analogy of a ski slope and going down a ski slope as being an analogy of the task of discipleship, where there's boundaries, but there's actually a lot of flexibility for us to make decisions. Do you find that helpful? What other analogies might be helpful? Also, I talked about how the Bible can be a bit like a user manual that helps us to stay on track. But actually, the Bible has a lot of human thumbprints on it, as well as God's thumbprints on it. Is that a strength or a weakness? What do we think about that? Which translations do you read, for example? And also I talked about how the Bible contains a number of truths which seem to be competing against each other or contradict each other. What examples can you think of? What's the risk of cherry-picking certain truths to give ourselves a path for the week ahead? And how can we learn to better balance the truths in the Bible? How can we as disciples get better at that? To hear the full truth of what God believes and wants for us in the week ahead and in our lives going forward. And the two different stories of Manasseh, they have very different endings. What do you think about that? It's interesting, I think. Does God only have one plan mapped out for you? Do you think God changed his mind about Manasseh in the second story? And what do you think being humble before God actually means in practice? What does it mean for you? What do you think God means when he talks about humility in that sense? And finally, I used the analogy of the sat-nav being also another analogy for how God looks to guide us back to the best path, whatever route we've chosen to take. Has that ever been true for you? What other examples in your life might you want to share with the group about situations where God has turned a bad decision and he's turned around and he's worked it for good? Anyway, there's quite a few things you might want to talk about. I hope you found the talk on Sunday helpful and this little quick summary. There's a few more questions in the crib sheet for discipleship group leaders if you want to use that. But God bless you. God bless you in your discipleship groups. It's such an important part of the church in learning and growing as disciples. Bye for now.